before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to YAHAWAHSHI, YAHAWAHSHI, Krakadashi, and double honors to the apostles and elders, down in the truth room, the men at GMS, and the brethren with a like-minded doctrine. It's the brother Bacalao while I'm here with another hopeful, edifying lesson to the elect body of YAHAWAHSHI. I don't have a title for this video, but I'm going to read the title of this particular video here that I'm finna show in my video, right? This is nanotechnology used in over 2,000 food items goes unlabeled due to a weird FDA loophole. So Esau Edom, the devil, which is a so-called white man, self-proclaimed white man, has put nanotechnology in your foods. I think he's been doing it since the 1990s. This, if you watch this whole video, you'll hear the guy will explain that. So I'm gonna play like a little bit, like 5 minutes or so of this video, right? Well, before I get to that, I want to make a disclaimer too, right? The Fair Use Act. Copyright disclaimer, Fair Use Act. This is copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. So I'm using this video for educational purposes and criticism and commenting, right? So that's what this video has been used for. So yeah, in the Fair Use Act, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and play this video, and then which I'm gonna go ahead and bring that scripture out. This is Ezekiel, the 4th chapter, right? Ezekiel 4 and 13, right? It says the Lord, Salakia, Ezekiel 4 and 13, and the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. And also there's another one in Amos. Salakia, bear with me. Alright, Salakia, it's not in Amos, it's in the book of Hosea, chapter 9, verse 3, right? It says, they shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. So this is what the scriptures is talking about, the prophecy. They have all type of defile, our food is defiled, So this is prophecy, Esau Edom putting this technology that goes into this transhumanism, that ties into that transhumanism, which is it's a part of his Great Reset, NWO, all that ties together, merging man with machine. That also ties in with Revelations, the 13th chapter, right? The Sihib, the Charagma, merging man with machine, with technology. So that's what this is all ties in together. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this video.
This right here is what's known as an ingredients label. it's legally required to be printed on the packaging of food items. And if you happen to be one of those people who stands in the aisles at the supermarket looking for the names of ingredients that you can't pronounce and therefore you don't want to ingest into your body, well, then you've most likely come across the names of several ingredients that, perhaps unbeknownst to you, are actually made using nanotechnology. Specifically, they are made through a process which converts things like silver, copper, gold, aluminum, silicon, carbon, as well as different metal oxides into tiny, tiny, tiny atom-sized particles that are quite literally 1/1,000,000th of a meter in size. If you want a visual for how small that is, up on screen is a graph from the National Center for Electron Microscopy, and it shows you how a strand of DNA, which is about 2 nanometers in diameter, is about 1,000 times smaller than a bacteria organism and about 1,000,000 times smaller than a raindrop. So that is to say, these nanoparticles in our food are very, very small. Now, some of the more common nano-sized ingredients that you might be able to find in your cupboard right now, if you were to look, include things like titanium dioxide, which is used to increase the whiteness of things like milk, yogurt, and sugar. You might find silicon oxide, which is added as an anti-caking agent. You might find iron and zinc dioxides, which are added to increase supposed nutritional value. You might find different silver derivatives, which are added for sterilizing properties. And you might find a host of other ingredients like calcium carbonate, tricalcium phosphates, and so on and so forth. The list is rather long. However, before we move on, in order to really set the stage for you properly here, let me back up for a quick moment and actually explain to you what this is all about. Starting back in the 1990s, so about 30 full years ago, nanotechnology became widely used in the production of food products. That's because scientists discovered that by adding these tiny little components, they were able to make our food more colorful, they were able to make it brighter, creamier, crunchier, and they were even able to keep it fresher for longer. And besides just adding it to the food itself, well, some manufacturers have also added these nanoparticles to the food packaging. As just one example, up on screen you can see a milk carton which utilizes nanotechnology to act essentially as an indicator of the freshness of the milk that's inside. And as you can see, the color of the box actually changes to coincide with the change of the food that's inside. Furthermore, different researchers also found that adding these nano-sized additives to some medicines made them more effective. However, according to more and more consumer protection groups as well as different health experts, well, there appears to be a catch, which is that while these nanoparticles can provide a myriad of benefits, they might come at a price. And that price is our health. Because you see, these particles are so small, so tiny, that studies like this one here that you can see up on screen for yourself show that they can actually breach the blood-brain barrier. And the ironic part is that the researchers in that study, they were actually looking into this function of nanoparticles in order to treat neurological diseases. Because in order to treat them, they actually need medication that can breach the blood-brain barrier. But when it comes to...
So what you were saying there, this nanotechnology can breach the blood-brain barrier, so these nano devices can damage, cause disruption in your blood and your brain, and the connection of it.
Food, for instance, when it comes to your breakfast cereal, that is not a feature of the ingredients that anyone is looking for. Furthermore, besides, in order to treat them, they actually need medication that can breach the blood-brain barrier. But when it comes to food, for instance, when it comes to your breakfast cereal, that is not a feature of the ingredients that anyone is looking for. Furthermore, besides breaching the blood-brain barrier, other studies have shown that these particles are also able to circulate throughout the body, to get into and get absorbed by the bloodstream and different organs. They have the potential to penetrate our cell walls, and then they might also, at least potentially, create inflammation and disease. Here's, for instance, what Dr. George Pirgiotakis, who is a researcher with the Harvard School for Public Health, here's what he said regarding this matter, quote, "They may pass through the lining of the gut and enter the bloodstream, which may trigger an inflammatory or immune response. They may also build up in various parts of the body, including the lungs, the heart, and reproductive organs." Likewise, Dr. Rolf Halden, who is the director of the Center for Environmental Health Engineering over at Arizona State University, he was quoted in a recent article as saying this, quote, "We really don't know what the impact of these particles is. Human exposure is increasing, and we lack the tools to even measure what is arriving in our bodies, where it is deposited, and what it does there." Then he actually went on to compare this unknown impact of nanoparticles to asbestos. Quote, "Asbestos itself is relatively benign. It's an inorganic material. What makes it toxic and makes it kill 90,000 people a year is that it has particles that lodges in human tissue. Furthermore, there was a study published in July of 2020 by researchers over at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. And in this study, they were specifically researching the effects of titanium dioxide, which is one of the most well-known additives. It's commonly added to things like gum, candy, drinks, milk, desserts, and so on. And what these researchers did was that they gave titanium dioxide to two different groups of mice. And in order to isolate the effects specifically to this nanoparticle, one group of mice was fed a low-fat diet, and the other group was fed a high-fat diet.
So I'm gonna stop it there. You can watch the whole video yourself. But that's the only, that's the point was made because he said this nanotechnology that's in food without your that's not even on your label boxes. It's not even printed on the label boxes. It's dangerous to your health, and they have no. And he said they don't know what this this technology. They don't know what it how it can affect your body in long term. Just like they said about GMOs, they said the same thing about GMOs. They don't know the long term effects of GMO, just like GMO foods, genetically modified organisms. They saying the same thing about this nanotechnology, and comparing it to asbestos. And, people were saying asbestos was good, was harmful. Then they found out that it was not harmful. Then they found out it was harmful to people. So we give a lot of examples like that in this video. So yeah, that's Esau Edom, man, the devil, man. He's putting this technology in your food without your awareness. Scripture also said Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, the 10th chapter, right? I think it's the 12th chapter, right? Never trust thy enemy, right? I'm gonna just grab that. I'll probably just leave it off with that, cause that's very deceitful, man. Very deceitful. You putting technology in people's food. Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10, right? Or Sirach 12 and 10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusts, so is his wickedness, man. You're supposed to trust this devil, man. Esau Edom, man. He's the devil. Devil means deceiver. He's full of lies and deceit, man. Scripture speaks on that also, But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and set it off there. Cause Esau Edom is the devil. He's gonna do what the devil does, man. And that's wickedness. So I might name this video like it had in the video right there. What you see, Nanotech food. That's why I probably named this video. So I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect. And I won't say call Halayama YAHAWAHSHI, YAHAWAHSHI, Ba'ashim, Rakakadash. Shalom till next time. Yahweh Rapazah, which means Lord willing, and Wa Baba Ball, DTA soon.